Hello, everyone. Welcome to our channel, where we tackle the most controversial and relevant topics of today in deep and thought-provoking debates. Today, we'll be discussing an issue that divides opinions and sparks significant reflection: drug legalization, harm reduction or encouragement of use. On one side, we have those who believe that legalizing drugs is a solution to combat trafficking, reduce crime, and treat drug use as a public health issue. On the other side, there are those who see legalization as a risky decision that normalizes consumption and brings serious consequences to society. As always, this is a space to confront ideas, so we encourage you, our viewers, to keep an open mind and reflect on the arguments presented. And of course, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on our upcoming debates. Now, without further ado, let's meet our debaters. On one side, we have the advocate, who believes that drug legalization is the key to effectively addressing this issue. On the other side, we have the critic, who argues that legalization brings more harm than solutions. Let's start with the advocate, who will have 1 minute for their introduction.
Hello, I am a specialist in public policy and public health, with over 15 years of experience in studying and implementing harm reduction programs. I hold a PhD in public health from Johns Hopkins University, where I researched how substance regulation can transform a public safety issue into a health-centered approach. I believe that drug legalization is more than a practical measure. It is a way to bring humanity to a system that has failed to protect both users and society. I am here to demonstrate how regulation can reduce trafficking, save lives, and build a fairer and more conscious society.
Thank you, advocate. Now, let's hear from the critic, who will have 1 minute for their introduction.
Hello, I am a criminologist and specialist in public safety, with over 20 years of experience combating drug trafficking and studying the social and economic impacts of substance use. I hold a PhD in criminology from Cambridge University, focusing on substance control policies. My position is clear. Drug legalization is an idea that, while well-intentioned, overlooks the social and economic complexities of the issue. It's not just about regulating a market, but dealing with the direct consequences of increased consumption, dependency, and the impacts on families and communities. I'm here to demonstrate that legalization is a risky gamble that could cause more harm than good.
Now that we've met our debaters, let's begin the debate. We will discuss 3 main points, with 5 rounds each. The first point will be chosen by the advocate. Can drug legalization reduce trafficking and crime? Advocate, you have 1 minute to begin.
Drug legalization is the most efficient strategy to weaken trafficking and reduce crime. Currently, criminal organizations rely on the illegal drug market as one of their main sources of income. By regulating this market, the state takes control, breaking the financial power of cartels and gangs. Furthermore, legalization reduces the burden on the judicial system, as many crimes related to drug use and possession are no longer treated as offenses. This allows resources to be redirected towards combating violent crimes and strengthening public safety. While it is not a complete solution, it is an essential step in undermining the structure of trafficking and its devastating consequences.
Thank you, advocate. Now we will hear from the critic, who will have the opportunity to refute or add to the argument.
The argument that legalization weakens trafficking is, at best, naive. Criminal organizations do not rely solely on the drug trade. They quickly adapt and diversify their activities to continue operating, as we have seen in cases of extortion, arms trafficking, and human exploitation. Moreover, legalization does not eliminate the illegal market. The parallel market will persist, offering cheaper, stronger products outside the state's regulations. Trafficking will not only continue but may become more aggressive, exploiting loopholes created by regulation. Reducing crime requires more than regulating substances. It requires completely dismantling these organizations, something legalization does not achieve.
Thank you, critic. Now we turn back to the advocate, who can refute or expand their argument.
Crime associated with drug trafficking will not disappear entirely with legalization, but it will be significantly reduced. When the state regulates the market, it removes a substantial portion of these organizations' income. This weakens their influence and limits their ability to operate with the same intensity. Additionally, legalization enables greater control over consumption and distribution, making it harder for the illegal market to compete with regulated and quality-assured products. Ignoring the positive impact regulation can have in reducing violence associated with trafficking is to overlook a real opportunity for change.
Thank you, advocate. Now we return to the critic, who will have the chance to refute or add to their point.
You speak of reducing violence but fail to acknowledge that legalization introduces new challenges. Regulated products tend to be more expensive due to taxes and quality control costs, which sustains the demand for the illegal market. Moreover, the normalization of consumption can lead to increased social conflicts, such as family disputes, domestic violence, and crimes committed under the influence of drugs. Trafficking is not just a business. It is a system deeply rooted in vulnerable communities that legalization does not dismantle. Arguing that legalization weakens trafficking ignores the ability of these organizations to explore new profit avenues and continue devastating communities, even under a regulated market.
Thank you, critic. For the fifth and final round of this point, we will hear from the advocate.
The arguments that the illegal market will persist and new problems will arise ignore the data from experiences where regulation has proven successful. Legalization does not completely eliminate trafficking but significantly reduces its scale and impact. With less money in the hands of criminal organizations, their ability to operate and expand is drastically curtailed. Additionally, legalization allows resources to be redirected to treating drug use as a health issue rather than a criminal one. This reduces social harm and creates an environment where people can seek help without fear of retribution. Continuing to treat drugs solely as a criminal issue perpetuates a cycle that has repeatedly failed.
This concludes the first point. Let us now move on to the second point, chosen by the critic. Does drug legalization pose a risk to public health?
Drug legalization is undoubtedly a risk to public health. When psychoactive substances are legalized, they become more accessible, inevitably leading to increased consumption, especially among young people and vulnerable populations. This is not speculation but a pattern observed with legalized products such as alcohol and tobacco, which cause millions of deaths annually even under regulation. Furthermore, the normalization of drugs creates an environment where risks are underestimated, leading to increased dependency, mental illness, and physical problems related to abuse. The healthcare system, already overburdened, will be unable to cope with the rising demand for treatments, hospitalizations, and emergencies. Legalization does not solve the problem. It simply changes its form, amplifying the harm to public health.
Thank you, critic. Now we will hear from the advocate, who will have the opportunity to refute or add to the argument.
Drug legalization does not pose a risk to public health. It presents an opportunity to reduce existing harm. Currently, millions of people consume adulterated and dangerous substances from the illegal market. By regulating drugs, the state can control their quality and distribution, reducing the damage caused by unsafe products. Additionally, legalization enables an honest and open discussion about the risks, encouraging more effective and realistic educational campaigns. Instead of marginalizing users, the system treats them as individuals deserving of support and treatment. The current approach, based on criminalization, has not only failed to curb consumption but has also exacerbated social and health-related harms.
Thank you, advocate. Now we return to the critic, who can refute or expand on their argument.
Reducing harm does not mean eliminating the inherent risks of drugs. Even when regulated, substances like heroin, cocaine, or methamphetamines are highly harmful. Quality control might reduce specific risks, but it does not remove the devastating impacts these substances have on the brain and body. Moreover, the argument that educational campaigns will work ignores reality. When something is legal, it is perceived as safer. This encourages recreational use and exposes vulnerable people to irreversible consequences. The increase in users and dependents will overburden the healthcare system in an unsustainable way, diverting resources from other critical areas.
You mention the inherent risks of drugs, but forget that these risks are exacerbated by the illegal market. Adulterated drugs cause avoidable overdoses and health issues that could be mitigated under a regulated system. Prohibition forces users to consume dangerous products in unsafe conditions, whereas legalization allows for better control and access to treatments. Additionally, the perception of safety does not rely solely on legality, but on education. Countries that have invested in realistic and informative educational campaigns have seen a reduction in problematic consumption. Stigma and marginalization do not help. Regulation offers a smarter, evidence-based approach.
The notion that legalization solves public health issues is flawed. While it may address certain immediate harms, it opens the door to a host of long-term consequences. Increased accessibility leads to normalization, which in turn increases the likelihood of abuse, particularly in younger populations. The burden on healthcare systems will grow exponentially, not just in treating addiction but in addressing related issues like mental health crises, accidents, and chronic illnesses caused by prolonged use. Legalization shifts the problem but does not eliminate it. Instead, it creates a new reality where harm becomes more widespread and ingrained in society. Public health should be protected through prevention and targeted support, not by endorsing behaviors that lead to destruction.
This concludes the second point. The third and final point will be decided by me. Can drug legalization promote a fairer society? Let's begin with the advocate, who will have 1 minute to present their argument.
Drug legalization is an essential step in building a fairer society. Currently, the war on drugs disproportionately affects the poorest, most marginalized, and racialized populations, who are the primary victims of incarceration and violence associated with the criminalization of drug use and possession. By legalizing drugs, the judicial system can redirect its efforts toward combating violent crimes and protecting fundamental rights. Moreover, the revenue generated through regulation can be invested in education, healthcare, and rehabilitation, directly benefiting the communities most impacted by prohibition. Social justice means treating drug consumption as a matter of health and equity, not as a tool of oppression.
Thank you, advocate. Now we'll hear from the critic. You have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Legalizing drugs does not promote social justice. On the contrary, it deepens inequality. Who do you think the big players in the regulated market will serve? Certainly not marginalized communities. Profits will be concentrated in the hands of large corporations, while the social problems of excessive consumption and dependency will continue to weigh on the most vulnerable. Additionally, by making drugs more accessible, legalization creates an environment where the poorest, already struggling to survive, become even more susceptible to abusive consumption. This is not social justice. It is a tragedy waiting to happen. The state should protect these populations by offering real opportunities for social mobility, not by normalizing behaviors that perpetuate exclusion.
Thank you, critic. Now we return to the advocate, who can refute or expand their argument.
The claim that legalization benefits only corporations ignores the fact that regulation can be designed to include redistribution measures and support for communities most affected by the war on drugs. Public policies can prioritize small producers, local cooperatives, and reinvest profits into essential services. Additionally, drug criminalization already perpetuates social exclusion by disproportionately incarcerating vulnerable individuals. Legalization addresses this injustice by decriminalizing consumption and offering pathways for social reintegration. Justice is not only about protection. It is about providing the conditions for these communities to thrive, which legalization makes possible.
Thank you, advocate. Now we return to the critic, who will have the chance to refute or add to this point.
You talk about justice, but ignore the devastating impacts of abusive consumption on vulnerable communities. Legalization does not solve poverty, create quality jobs, or improve education in these communities. Instead, it normalizes drug use, intensifying the problems they already face, such as domestic violence, school dropouts, and chemical dependency. And about the public policies you mentioned, in practice, we often see the poorest left at the back of the line to receive the promised benefits. Legalization does not create equity. It merely shifts the burden of dependency and problematic consumption onto the most vulnerable, while the true profits remain concentrated.
Thank you, critic. For the fifth and final round of this point, we will hear from the advocate.
Ignoring the harms of criminalization perpetuates a system that has failed to protect the most vulnerable. Legalization is not a magical solution, but it is a starting point to address systemic injustices. It offers an opportunity to invest in programs that address problematic consumption, create formal jobs in the regulated market, and promote educational campaigns that benefit society as a whole. Furthermore, by decriminalizing consumption, we give people a second chance instead of branding them as criminals for life. Social justice is about providing real possibilities for rehabilitation, inclusion, and growth. Legalization does not solve every problem, but it is a powerful tool to build a more equitable and compassionate society.
With this, we conclude the third and final point of the debate. Now we will move on to the closing statements. Each debater will have 2 minutes to present their final arguments and leave a message for the audience. We'll start with the advocate. You have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Thank you for following this debate. Drug legalization is a bold and necessary approach to address a problem that criminalization has only exacerbated. It allows us to treat consumption as a public health issue instead of perpetuating violence and social exclusion. By regulating the market, we can weaken trafficking, provide safer alternatives, and redirect resources to programs that truly help people. This is not about encouraging drug use, but about creating a system where no one is marginalized for consuming. I hope this debate has shown that legalization is an opportunity to build a more humane and just society.
Thank you, advocate. Now we'll hear from the critic. You have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Thank you for the opportunity to participate in this debate. While legalization is presented as a progressive solution, it overlooks the real consequences for public health, safety, and social equity. Legalizing drugs is not justice. It is normalizing a problem that destroys lives and communities. The poorest will continue to suffer, not because of trafficking, but because of the damage that abusive consumption brings to their families and homes. The state must protect and promote human dignity, not open the door to substances that increase the vulnerability of those already facing great challenges.
And that concludes today's debate on drug legalization, harm reduction, or encouragement of use. We thank our debaters for their insightful and thought-provoking arguments. What do you think? Is legalization the right path? Or does it bring more risks than benefits? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on our next debates. See you next time